The private lounge hummed with energy. I'd just closed a massive case, and the mental math on my commission check had me feeling like I'd hit the jackpot. Cheers! A toast to Lottie, our star attorney. The vibe was electric. I laughed and clinked glasses with the crowd, playing the part of the successful socialite perfectly. Don't be so formal, I teased. If you guys have any more big cases, you know who to call. The words had barely left my lips when the lounge door swung open. The room went silent. I turned around to see a tall, lean figure silhouetted against the hallway lights. Someone nearby hissed, "Holy shit." The valedictorian was a heartthrob back in high school, but in a tailored suit? That's just unfair. My good mood evaporated the moment I locked eyes with that cold, detached gaze. I must have been cursed today. Why didn't anyone mention he'd be here? The chatter rose to a roar the second Lucian walked in. I set my drink down and slid into the darkest corner of the booth. My goal was simple: stay invisible. Madeline leaned in, nudging my shoulder. "Hey, Lottie, I'm the one who organized this. At least try to look like you're having a good time." I shot her a sharp look. "You invited my arch-nemesis and you want me to play nice?" Madeline clicked her tongue. "If you don't want to talk to him, plenty of others are lining up to." She wasn't wrong. Lucian had always possessed that effortless, infuriating magnetism that drew people in like a moth to a flame. "Look, you're a high-powered attorney now. Be the bigger person," Madeline prodded. She leaned in closer, whispering, "Besides, I heard he's absolutely loaded now. Maybe you could even snag a case from him later." My interest piqued. Sure, Lucian had spent 3 years of high school stealing the top-ranked spot in every class and sucking all the oxygen out of the room, but that was ancient history. In this day and age, who holds a grudge against money? I steeled my resolve and stood up to offer him a drink. Sylvia was already there, looking like an ethereal vision in white, whispering something into his ear. Some things never changed, like Sylvia's pathetic, unrequited obsession. "Lucian, hope you'll keep me in mind for future business," I said, flashing my best professional, icy polite smile. It became much more genuine when I caught a glimpse of the Patek Philippe on his wrist. Lucian sat in the booth, his sharp, handsome features partially veiled by the dim lighting. He gave a single dismissive nod. "Certainly." Short and curt, how on-brand. Knowing Luna was waiting for me at home, I slipped out early. The stray tabby was my only reliable company. I cleaned the litter box and refilled her bowl, sinking into the familiar rhythm of my quiet life. My social media feed was already blowing up with reunion photos, and the alumni group chat was spiraling, thanks to Lucian's return. A few people tagged me, leading to a flurry of new friend requests. I didn't bother checking them, I just hit accept on the lot and collapsed into bed. The next morning, I thought I was still dreaming when I stepped into the office elevator and saw Lucian standing there. Seeing him in broad daylight was dangerous. The elevator was a claustrophobic box, and there was nowhere to hide. I forced a polite, stiff smile. "Morning. Which floor?" 16th. I froze. My floor? Our law firm was the only thing on the 16th floor. I glanced at his custom-tailored Armani suit, and my professional instincts flared. "Are you here for business? Since I work here, maybe I can—" Ding. The doors slid open, and I ran straight into my boss. His face lit up when he saw us. "Oh, Lottie, you two know each other? Senior partner Evans, the legendary youngest partner at the firm? My new direct superior?" My brain short-circuited. Through the haze of my confusion, I heard Lucian's cool, low voice. "It's a coincidence. I work here too." "You have got to be kidding me." I wanted to quit. "Don't be a fool," Madeline said, leaning against the doorframe. "You've clawed your way to the top of this firm. Are you really going to throw it all away?" She gestured vaguely toward the offices. "Besides, Lucian Evans is your direct supervisor now. That's basically a golden ticket." My soul left my body. In prep school, I was constantly crushed under the weight of being Lucian's shadow, always stuck in second place. Just when I thought I'd finally reached the top of my game, he'd returned from overseas, and I was back at square one. The mere thought of deferring to his every command made my head ache. But then I remembered I had Luna to feed, and I resigned myself to my fate. A boss is a boss. As long as the check clears, I'm good. By the end of the morning, Lucian's stellar resume was the talk of the firm. Hey Lottie, you went to the same academy as Lucian, right? Countless gossiping eyes pinned me to my chair. With a face and a build like that, he must have been incredibly popular back in school, huh? I glanced at the tall, rigid figure standing by the partner's office and offered a polite, detached smile. Maybe. We weren't exactly close. Lucian suddenly glanced over toward us. My heart skipped a beat. A flash of irrational anxiety washed over me, and I quickly pasted on a tight, professional expression. Mr. Evans, did you need something? His expression was cold. Organize the documents for the YL merger and get them to me by noon. See? Golden ticket. My foot. It was my first day under him, and he was already running me ragged. Understood, Mr. Evans. Having an academic rival as a boss was bad enough. But then, Matthias Franklin strolled in, clutching a massive bouquet of long-stemmed roses. Attorney Wells, do you have time for dinner tonight? The office went silent, eyes darting between us, full of drama. My body went rigid. I managed a strained smile. I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin, but I already have plans. He was a high-net-worth client whose case we had just wrapped up. I had to remain diplomatic. Matthias, a veteran in the game of pursuit, didn't miss a beat. He offered a practiced, polite smile. My apologies. That was bold of me. Let's do it another time. Please, keep the flowers as a thank you for your hard work. I wanted to refuse, but My apologies, she's allergic to pollen. Lucian appeared out of nowhere, his voice flat and clipped. Also, client first is our firm's policy. But please, Mr. Franklin, no need for the grand gestures. Are you kidding me? I did all the legwork, and he swoops in to take the credit while making me look like the incompetent one? Matthias looked visibly embarrassed. Oh, I see. My apologies. With that, he and the flowers vanished. I let out a shaky breath, gripping the edge of my desk to steady myself. I walked over to place the files on his desk, but Lucian cut me off. I expect a certain level of professional decorum, which includes maintaining appropriate distance from clients. The audacity of this man. I choked back my frustration, my jaw tightening. Mr. Evans, I have no personal relationship with Mr. Franklin. Surely you don't think I'd be interested in a man who doesn't even know I'm allergic to pollen. He took the files, his expression unmoved. True, he said coolly. After all, you aren't exactly close with the ones who do know, either. I stared at him, rendered speechless. 3 years in the same honors classes, and my rival still knew exactly how to twist the knife. Ever since crossing paths with Lucian again, nothing had gone right. The moment I clocked out, I raced home, hoping to find solace with Luna. But as I reached my apartment, I saw movers bustling in and out of the unit across the hall. I glanced over and saw a cat carrier sitting by the door, with a cold, haughty ragdoll cat with piercing blue eyes inside. Oh, hell no. My blood pressure spiked. I couldn't help myself. I reached into my bag and pulled out the premium treat I'd bought for Luna. Hey there, you want a treat? It's delicious. The ragdoll gave me one disdainful look and ignored me completely. It's really good. Look at you, you're so beautiful, Mochi. At the sound of that voice, I instinctively spun around. Yeah? At the same time, the ragdoll finally moved. Meow. Wait. Ignoring the fact that Lucian Evans was now my neighbor, I was focused on one thing. Lucian Evans. You named your cat the same thing you call me? He had to be doing this on purpose. She likes the name. Talk about a lazy, half-hearted excuse. I bit back a retort, holding my tongue. Then I caught his gaze, those deep, ocean blue eyes, and my resolve crumbled. Fine, I conceded. But as a trade-off, you have to let me pet her. Lucian's expression went unreadable. I realized how that sounded halfway through and frantically brandished the gourmet cat food in my hand. No, wait, I meant her. Mochi is spoiled and temperamental. Even I have trouble managing her. What? Lucian, if you keep up this attitude, our already fragile bond from high school is going to be non-existent. Besides, She's smart. She doesn't just take handouts from strangers. Oh good, you're projecting, and I have the evidence to prove it. I gripped the cat food tin until my knuckles turned white. You're just like your owner, aren't you? You might be handsome enough to turn heads, but if you're going to be this difficult, then click. Lucian popped the latch on the carrier and lifted the ragdoll out. Say hello to your new neighbor, Mochi. We're going to be living across the hall from each other from now on. Neighbor? If looks could kill, that cat would be an orphan. She spared me a single glance, then let out a low, lazy purr. Oh my God, you adorable little thing. Mommy loves you. I reached out, cautiously stroking her soft, regal fur. Then I did it again. For the sake of this cat, I suppose I could handle Lucian living right across the hall. Satisfied, I headed into my apartment and cracked open the tin. Luna, look what Mommy bought just for you. Luna trotted over. But just as I reached out to scoop her up, she backed away, staring at me with pure disdain. My heart sank. It was just a few pets, Luna. Why do you have to be so dramatic? After a solid hour of being given the cold shoulder, I despairingly knocked on the door across the hall. The movers were gone, but even from the hallway, I could see his high-end designer furniture filling the space. Lucian opened the door, one eyebrow arched in surprise. Didn't you have plans tonight? I squeezed my eyes shut and raked a hand through my hair. I promised I'd be back to keep Luna company. No, look, Lucian mister. Evans' neighbor. Help me out. Could you bring Mochi over to bear witness, to prove I didn't mean to betray her? I wasn't trying to be unfaithful. I just committed the sin every cat parent eventually makes. Lucian stared at me. I stared right back, pleading with my eyes. He finally looked away, his jaw tightening as he stepped aside. Let's go. I was ecstatic. 5 minutes later, I watched in heartbreak as Luna trotted straight over, purring and rubbing her head affectionately against Lucian's pant leg, refusing to leave his side. Luna, you traitor! Luna and I were officially traitors to one another. For a split second, I suspected the universe had sent Lucian Evans specifically to spite me. Not only were his academic transcripts flawless, but his career trajectory was significantly steeper than mine. Even his cat was prettier than mine. Tell me, what are you competing with? Your extra fluff? I muttered that under my breath, but after seeing the custom-built luxury cat tower and organic kibble in Lucian's apartment, I swallowed the insult and forgave Luna. I'd finally come to terms with the reality. I was never going to win against Lucian Evans in this lifetime. I accepted my fate, but Luna didn't. She started spending her days meowing incessantly at the door across the hall, as if it were her real home. Mochi, Lucian's spoiled ragdoll, clearly didn't give her the time of day, but I was at my breaking point. Fine, go on then. See if he even wants you. 3 minutes later, Luna scratched her way into his apartment and scored a pouch of premium salmon treats. Really? Lucian, do you have a problem with me or something? I stormed over, staring daggers at Luna, who was currently hanging off his expensive floor-to-ceiling curtains like a decorative rug. Just so we're clear, you're the one who let her in, so you deal with the mess. If those curtains are shredded, I'm sending you the invoice. Lucian, who was busy reviewing case files, glanced up. He asked with infuriating calm, "The calculus tutoring I provided back in college easily outweighs a bag of fish treats, don't you think? Excuse me? Still holding a grudge over a few math problems? How petty can he get? Besides," he continued, his gaze drifting lazily toward me, "by your logic, anything that ends up in my domain becomes my personal property. Does that mean I'm responsible for you too?" I stiffened, offering a sharp, mock professional salute. "My apologies, boss. I was only joking. My professional integrity is perfectly intact. To be fair, the cases Lucian took were, well, incredibly lucrative. I couldn't afford to have him questioning my professional capabilities. But living across the hall from my boss was a disaster waiting to happen, especially since the entire firm was obsessed with his every move. I just wanted to keep my head down and stay out of trouble. I started intentionally shifting my schedule, leaving the office half an hour early to avoid him. He, clearly valuing his own privacy, started heading home 30 minutes later than usual. We reached a strange, unspoken truce. Luna would go to his place for treats in the morning, and I'd stop by in the evening to play with the cats. Our social standing might have taken a hit, but at least there was peace. Do you guys think the partner has a girlfriend at home? He's so regimented. The office chatter never seemed to die down. I clutched my ceramic coffee tumbler, thinking back to our university reunion. Even if he doesn't, he's probably close to it, someone chimed in. That theory solidified into a cold, hard fact the moment I learned Sylvia Bailey was the lead liaison for the YL merger case. Luna started acting up for treats again. After a standoff, where I stared her down and she stared back, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and head over to Lucian's. He was sitting on the sofa, brushing mochi and staring at his phone. How harmonious, how domestic. Meanwhile, my own life felt like a dumpster fire. I was seething, so I marched over and stood directly in front of him. I caught a fleeting glimpse of the screen. It looked like Sylvia's name. Oh, great. He's here living his best life, and I'm losing my mind over a cat. I reached out and snatched the phone from his grip, shouting, "Luna and I, you have to choose one of us." Lucian looked up. I braced myself for his temper, expecting him to snap at me for the intrusion. Instead, he just studied me for a long, quiet moment, and his lips curled into a subtle, slow smirk. He reached out to scratch Mochi behind the ears, his voice dropping to a low, uncharacteristically indulgent tone. "Mochi, don't be so stingy. Give your treats to her." I can't shake the feeling that Lucian's words meant something more, but I'm a sucker for a freebie. I clutched those gourmet salmon bites and held my tongue. Traitors are such a headache. Luna, you little two-timer. Well, technically, the treats weren't even his. I'm not going to eat your food for free, Lucian. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Lucian scratched Mochi's chin, his expression casual. You always said that back then, too. I stared at him, speechless. Look, physics is hard. If there had been a single other person on the planet I could ask for help, do you really think I'd go to Lucian? He looked over, a smirk dancing on his lips. Then put it on the tab. You can pay me back, eventually. Fine, I'll pay him back. I might not be his equal at the firm, but I'm still a high-flying corporate attorney in my own right. I didn't say that out loud, but Lucian clearly read it on my face. For the Sterling merger case, he took me on the business trip, my name proudly listed right next to his. Checking in at the airport, I felt like a glorified personal assistant to an industry titan. At least Lucian has class. The travel accommodations were top tier, and I ended up in the suite right next to his. The next few days were a blur. The case was massive, intricate assets, cutthroat stakeholders, and a mountain of red tape. I finally realized why he's the youngest partner at the firm. I hate to admit it, but he's brilliant. My ego was feeling a little bruised. Lottie, your mindset is the problem here, Madeline scoffed when I complained over the phone. You treat your boss like a rival. How are you supposed to have a life? And think about the extra commission he's helping you earn. Do you have any idea how much high-end cat food that covers? Damn that, Luna. I put my phone away and flashed Lucian a thumbs up. Lucian, you're incredible. He wasn't buying it. One brow arched. Man, what a waste of high-level talent. I should have used these social tactics on my physics homework instead. The deal was practically settled. That night, we were dragged into another round of high-stakes corporate dinners. In the past, I would have been expected to drink, but this time, Lucian blocked every glass offered to me. I tugged on his sleeve under the table, whispering, "Lucian, I can handle my wine." "I know," he said, leaning back into his chair. His gaze lingered on my hand for a heartbeat, his expression unreadable. "But when you're with me, you don't drink unless you want to." Huh. Maybe he's not such a bad boss after all. It was late when we returned to the hotel. In the elevator, I could still catch the faint scent of scotch on him. "Do you want me to order you a strong espresso and a bagel in the morning?" I asked. It was the polite thing to do since he'd helped me. He shook his head. "No need." I went quiet, making a mental shopping list for Luna. We'd never been apart this long since I'd adopted him. Oh, right, and mochi. I'd have to buy double. As I was thinking, the elevator jolted. A bone-jarring clang echoed through the shaft. Someone screamed. My heart slammed into my ribs. Before I could even process what was happening, I was yanked into a warm, solid embrace that smelled faintly of scotch. He held me tight, closer than we had ever been. I could hear his heart hammering, ragged and frantic, against his chest. The world plunged into darkness. All I could hear was Lucian's voice, low and strained, right against my ear. Lottie, don't be afraid. We were too close. The heat radiating from his chest seared through the thin fabric of his dress shirt. His heart hammered a frantic, steady rhythm against my ear, rattling my very nerves. I froze. Maybe I was losing my mind, but I could have sworn I heard a tremor in his voice, a flicker of genuine panic. Then, he said my name. Just 2 syllables, but on his lips, it felt like an invitation. Thinking I was still trembling, he pulled me closer, resting a hand on my head. His voice dropped to a low, soothing rasp. I've got you. The tone was the same one he used when he was coddling his golden retriever, Duke. Trapped against his chest, I couldn't see a thing. I could only hear him barking orders, commanding someone to hit the emergency stop and call for help. The panicked crowd that had been losing their minds mere seconds ago went deathly quiet under his authority. Some people, it seemed, were just born with the power to settle a storm. Thankfully, the elevator didn't drop any further. The hotel rescue team was fast. Within 15 minutes, the doors pried open and the chaotic noise of the lobby flooded back in. It wasn't until the hotel manager began pacing anxiously, offering his 10th frantic apology, that I finally snapped back to reality. My eyes drifted to Lucian's profile, hard, cold, and composed. He was a man who rarely lost his cool, let alone showed anger. Seeing him like this felt alien, unsettling. I reached out and tugged his sleeve. Lucian. He stiffened, the lethal edge in his posture vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. He lowered his voice to a murmur. Let's get you home. You need to rest. The manager looked at me with an expression of desperate relief, but I couldn't focus on him. My gaze remained locked on Lucian. When we reached my door, I reached into my bag for my keycard, only to realize my hand was still firmly gripped in his. My head spun. Oh God. We'd been holding hands like that in front of everyone? He seemed to realize it at the same moment, pulling away as if burned. Click! The door unlocked. I hovered on the threshold, looking back at him. Lucian, about just now. He stood in the hallway, the dim overhead lights casting shadows across his sharp features. I couldn't read his expression. I tightened my grip on the doorknob. Thank you. He waited a long, silent moment before he spoke. I told you, didn't I? I'm going to take care of you. I retreated into my room and went straight to the bathroom to wash my face. Staring into the mirror, I saw a face flushed beet red. I pressed my hands to my cheeks, trying to steady my breathing. Lottie Wells, pull yourself together. It was just a hug and some hand-holding. Sure, it was a first, and yeah, the man was objectively gorgeous, but there was no reason to fall apart like this. He was just acting out of some misplaced sense of professional courtesy. It took forever for the heat to drain from my face. Even then, the air in the room felt heavy, tainted with the lingering scent of his sandalwood cologne and a faint, subtle trace of bourbon. I hadn't touched a drop of liquor tonight, yet as I collapsed onto the bed, I sat up, restless and agitated. Lucian Evans, your alcohol tolerance is absolutely pathetic. By the time I woke up the next morning, I'd managed to hide the worst of my dark circles. Beside me, the man who had kept me up all night looked entirely unaffected. His suit was crisp, his composure unshakable, his air of detached elegance entirely intact. To the rest of the world, he was still the refined, ice-cold Mr. Evans. It was as if yesterday's drama hadn't left a single mark on him. Not that it was a big deal anyway. I tilted my head, catching my own resentful expression in the airplane window. Behind me, the flight attendant was looking just as polished. This was the third time she'd come by to offer coffee, her voice syrupy sweet, her eyes lingering on Lucian with thinly veiled adoration. TSK. He couldn't stop the flow of love letters back in high school, and he was still out here acting like a magnet for unwanted attention. A surge of irritation pricked at me. I shoved my sleep mask over my eyes and pulled the shade down. "We don't need anything," Lucian said, his voice dropping into that low, chilly register he used when he was shutting someone down. "Could you just bring over an extra blanket? Thanks." A moment later, I felt a weight settle over me. Lucian had handed his own blanket to me. The flight attendant looked mortified. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you and your girlfriend." Lucian leaned back into his seat without a word. I waited a beat before pulling off my mask, leaning in to whisper, "Mr. Evans, if you're going to drag me into your little charades outside of office hours, I'm going to need overtime pay." Was he really getting that comfortable using me as a human shield? Lucian glanced at me, his eyelids drooping lazily. "Didn't you say you wanted to repay me? Or are you worried about what people might think?" Damn, I couldn't argue with that. I pulled the blanket tighter and grumbled, "You're such a pain." Back home, we headed to the pet shop to pick up Luna and Mochi. The owner claimed the two had been getting along famously, and the facts backed it up. Luna was actually licking Mochi's fur. The little stray seemed to be spending more and more time at Lucian's place. "It's classic empty nest syndrome," I sighed, shaking my head. "They grow up, move out, and suddenly, you're yesterday's news." Madeline blinked, a smirk playing on her lips. "You're the one hitting the bar in the middle of the night, trying to have a good time. You aren't exactly setting a great example for her, are you?" "Don't talk nonsense." I downed my drink, a spike of indignation hitting me. "You don't know the half of it. She's become absolutely obsessed with Lucian." Madeline thought for a long moment, then offered a piece of constructive advice. "Then, why don't you just steal him away? Make her suffer. Make her cry. What was I thinking when I chose you as my best friend?" Seeing the look on my face, Madeline scrambled to fix it. "Hey, don't dwell on the unhappy stuff. Look over there, a group of guys. They're super hot." I squinted for a long time, then covered my eyes. Damn it, total eyesores. Madeline stared at me, looking utterly bewildered. "Lottie Wells, are you even functional? It's one thing to be oblivious for years, but now you've lost the ability to even appreciate a handsome face?" "I'm not blind." I groaned in agony. "Looking at them just makes me want to go home." The words were out before I could stop them. I clamped my mouth shut. Madeline went silent, just staring at me. My heart hammered against my ribs, erratic and panicked. Why had I said that? Why? Madeline let out a long, heavy sigh. "Lottie, you're toast." I felt my heart skip a beat, a mix of anticipation and pure terror. "You spend every day staring at a guy with movie star looks like your boss," she continued. "Your standards are never coming down. What are you going to do when you can't find a guy who measures up?" I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, but the relief felt hollow. Attorney Wells? I never imagined I'd run into Matthias Franklin in a place like this. Oh, right, that was supposed to be his line. I gave him a few distracted, dismissive answers, but Matthias was relentless. Just as I was hitting my limit, my phone rang. I answered without looking a choice I immediately regretted. "Still not home this late?" Lucian's voice vibrated through the receiver, startlingly clear against the noisy backdrop of the bar. "Luna is looking for you." "Where are you?" Guilt washed over me. "I'm just finishing up something. I'll be back soon." "Attorney Wells, it's not safe to head back alone," Matthias said, speaking up. "Should I drop you off?" As soon as Matthias spoke, the other end of the line went dead silent. A moment later, Lucian's cool, calm voice returned. "Send your location." I hung up in despair. The thought of facing Luna's judgmental gaze when I got home made me feel Matthias still wouldn't leave, insisting on waiting with me until my friend arrived. I downed another glass to build up some courage. No sooner had I finished than a pair of long legs stepped into my line of sight. "Mr. Evans?" Madeline stood up, looking nervous. Mr. Evans? Matthias looked genuinely stunned, his gaze flicking back and forth between us. I didn't realize your firm provided such attentive service to your subordinates. Lottie. Lucian called my name. I scrambled to get up, my legs clumsy. I'm here. I stood too quickly and nearly tripped, but he caught me, his hand firm on my arm. It's after hours, Lucian said, ignoring me and shifting his gaze to Matthias. I don't have time to waste. Matthias was left speechless. Lucian finally looked at me. Are we going home? My last shred of self-preservation made me nod immediately. As I followed in Lucian's wake, walking toward the exit, I caught a glimpse of Madeline silently praying and Matthias looking utterly shocked. I wasn't paying attention and walked right into his back when he stopped suddenly. He turned around, the cool night breeze blowing past us, carrying the scent of alcohol. I clutched my stinging nose, meeting his deep, dark eyes. Suddenly, the wine-induced haze vanished. Oh no. Lottie Wells, it looks like you've fallen for him. Everything hit me with sudden, crystalline clarity. Lucian frowned, leaning in close. Does it hurt? His warmth was overwhelming. My heart stuttered, and I instinctively pulled away. No, I'm fine. My voice sounded congested, muffled even to my own ears. Lucian paused. A moment later, he straightened up, his voice turning cool and detached. Was I bothering you? Why did he sound so annoyed? The night breeze carried his voice away, leaving it distant. Right, it was late. I shouldn't have dragged him out here. It was only natural for him to be frustrated. I kept my eyes down, gripping my skirt until my knuckles turned white, terrified that my true feelings might leak out. No, let's go back. Luna is still waiting. Even though I had only just discovered the secret myself, I was already terrified that someone else would figure it out. Especially given the nature of it. The walk back was heavy, with an awkward silence. My mind was a chaotic blur, and Lucian seemed to have lost interest, remaining quiet the rest of the way. The stalemate finally broke when we reached the door. As soon as I unlocked it, I let out a breath and offered a quiet apology to the cat. Luna, I'm so sorry. I'm late. Meow. Luna brushed right past me, lunging straight for Lucian's legs. What? I turned, stunned. Lucian scooped her up, his slender, well-defined fingers stroking her head. A hint of a smile flickered in his eyes. So this is what you meant by Luna looking for me? Lucian ignored my glare, merely glancing at me with cool indifference. You smell like alcohol. She doesn't like it. Oh, right. A wave of self-annoyance hit me. I sniffed my clothes, feeling a biting frustration. I really shouldn't have gone to that mixer. I'll shower and come back to get her in a bit. After a rushed cleanup, I headed over to his place. Lucian was sitting on the sofa reviewing files, while Luna was already curled up on his lap, fast asleep. For a split second, I felt a sharp pang of envy. I'd been working toward this for so long, yet I wasn't even as capable as a cat. At the very least, she was already sleeping in the arms of the man I loved. And me? Huh. I stepped forward, meeting his gaze as he looked up. My heart began its frantic, uncontrollable thumping again. What is it? He raised an eyebrow. Need another favor? No. I grabbed Luna and scrambled back to my own place. I couldn't exactly say it out loud. I'm in love with you, so please, do me a favor, and love me back, would you? Falling for a professional rival was a dangerous game. Pining for your boss? That was a death sentence for my career. I warned myself constantly that the road ahead was treacherous, that I should turn back before it was too late. Yet, every resolve I made crumbled to dust the moment I saw him. I couldn't help it. I was obsessed with everything about Lucian, his face, his poise, his hands, the cases he won, and his countless admirers. Tell me, how has Lucian stayed single for this long? The merger case was hitting its final stage. Watching Sylvia Bailey head into Lucian's office, I sent a tentative message to Madeline. Madeline was quick to respond. You've never had a boyfriend in your life, yet you have the energy to worry about someone else? Besides, look at his status. If he wanted to, he could be off the market in a heartbeat. I didn't want to believe it, That's exactly why it's suspicious. What's so suspicious about it? If he isn't interested, it doesn't matter how hard they chase him. I slumped in my chair. She was right. If so many people had chased him and failed, what hope did I have? Back home that night, I still couldn't let it go, so I tried negotiating with Oscar. Oscar, look at you. Don't you think you need a playmate? How do I look for the position? Oscar remained aloof, the picture of cold, aristocratic indifference. I didn't need his answer anyway. My phone buzzed. Sylvia Bailey had just posted a new update on her Instagram feed, a bouquet of roses. My very first crush had barely begun, and it already felt like a disaster in the making. I stared at Lucian Evans's profile picture for a long time. It was just a blank silhouette. Had I gotten it wrong? If he were really announcing a relationship, wouldn't they have posted a photo together? I opened our chat, typing and deleting the same words over and over. I wanted to ask, but the words wouldn't come. Outside, the sky had turned pitch black. Lucian was rarely out this late. The small spark of hope in my chest sputtered and died, leaving behind a sharp, stinging frustration. I poked at Luna's soft belly, feeling sorry for myself. If I wasn't so obsessed with getting you those premium salmon treats every day, would I have even fallen for him? Luna ignored me, scampering off to play with Mochi instead. Forget it, I was just weak. If I'd had an ounce of discipline, I never would have been so easily bewitched by Mochi or his owner. As I headed out with Luna in my arms, I ran straight into Lucian. He'd just walked in. He froze, clearly surprised to see me there at such an hour. Were you waiting for me? I couldn't admit that. I used Luna as a flimsy excuse, hurried past him, and practically sprinted down the hall. I didn't dare look at him, and I certainly didn't dare check if he still smelled like that expensive cologne. After that day, I stopped taking Luna over to his place. I made a point of leaving early and getting home late, doing my best to steer clear of Lucian entirely. We ran into each other at the office a few times. He'd look at me with a weight in his eyes, as if he were trying to bridge the tension between us. But there were always too many colleagues around for a private word. Aside from work, we didn't speak. Even though he lived right across the hall, just an arm's reach away. Maybe this was for the best, I told myself. I was terrified that if we talked, I wouldn't be able to hide how I felt, but I was wrong. I used to think distance would kill a crush. I was naive. Absence didn't make the heart wither, it just watered the roots, letting my feelings grow wild and tangled until they coiled tight around my heart. On the night the YL merger case finally wrapped up, the company held a celebration dinner. The room was a blur of clinking glasses and loud chatter. Colleagues kept coming over to toast me, and I accepted every single one, drinking until my cheeks burned. I had just stepped out of the restroom when Lucian blocked my path. Have I done something to upset you lately? Why are you avoiding me? I managed a strained smile. Not at all. I've just been slammed at work. Oh, and Lucian, why didn't you bring Sylvia Bailey tonight? Why would I invite her? He countered with a question of his own, then paused. His eyes were dark and intense as he stared at me in silence. My heart skipped a beat. Lottie, what right do you have to be jealous? But did that mean he wasn't with her? Lucian, actually, I took a deep breath, gathering every scrap of courage I had. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, but in that moment, I wanted to tell him everything. Lottie, he cut me off before I could finish. I have someone I like. In that moment, I understood exactly what he meant. Don't say it. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head, leaving my fingertips numb. Lottie, where have you been? You okay? A colleague's voice cut through the silence. I snapped back to reality, forcing a tight smile. I'm fine. Just had a bit too much to drink, that's all. Lucian's lips parted, but with my colleague hovering nearby, the conversation died on the vine. Back at the table, I grabbed my bag and offered a strained apology. I've got a massive headache, and a fur baby waiting for me at home. I'm going to head out. Let me drop you off. Lucian reached out to steady me, but I stepped back, avoiding his touch. That wouldn't be appropriate, Lucian. Madeline is coming to pick me up. I'm fine. I couldn't stand to be in that room for another second. I fled, desperate for the sanctuary of my own space. Lying in bed, eyes stinging, I tried to force myself to sleep, but his words played on an endless loop. Sensing my distress, Luna curled up against my chest, uncharacteristically affectionate. I buried my face in her fur. Sorry, Luna. Looks like Mommy can't find you a new daddy after all. He had someone else. My phone buzzed. A message from Lucian. I'm outside your door. They say you should love your neighbor, but in this case, it felt more like living in a cage. Every word he sent, every scrap of attention he gave me, just fed my pathetic, lingering hope. I rubbed my tired eyes, my jaw tight with suppressed irritation. I'm already asleep. It took a long time, but finally, he replied with a single word. Fine. A night of tossing and turning was all I needed to make up my mind. I was quitting. I wouldn't waste my life hung up on a man who didn't want me, especially since he'd made it so painfully clear. With a pounding head, I threw caution to the wind, fired off a resignation email to the firm, and immediately booked a moving company. It broke my heart, but staying wasn't an option. I stuffed a grumpy Luna into her carrier, whispering reassurances to her. Don't worry, Luna. Mommy isn't going to leave you behind. We'll be fine, even if we have to start over from scratch. Luna voiced her sharp disapproval with a series of indignant meows. We stared at each other, both miserable. I know. You don't want to leave Lucian. Believe me, neither do I. But what other choice did I have? The doorbell rang. Already? The movers were faster than I thought. I'm not quite packed yet. My voice died in my throat the moment I saw Lucian standing in the hallway. You're quitting? His voice was cold, devoid of emotion. Of course. As my boss, he would have seen the email immediately. I gritted my teeth, pacing the small space to vent my nervous energy. Yes. His gaze shifted, scanning the boxes over my shoulder. And you're moving? I summoned every ounce of courage I had left, my hands clenching at my sides. Yes. Reason? No reason. I just felt like it. The last time I'd been this stubborn with him, we were still in college. He stood there in silence for a moment before nodding. Fine. I bit my lip, stinging with frustration, and ran a hand through my hair. Forget being neighbors or former classmates. I was one of his best lawyers, wasn't I? He wasn't even going to try to convince me to stay. Then, he stepped forward, cradling Luna in his arms, and held out a stack of papers from the vet. You can go, he said, his tone infuriatingly calm. But first, settle up the outstanding veterinary bills. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I stared at the list in my hand, counting the kittens 1, 2, 3, and realized my brain had completely short-circuited. What kind of insane budget does it take to sustain this many cats? 10 minutes later, I was sitting face-to-face with the man who was essentially my cat's co-parent, or, rather, the owner of the father. Lucian Evans. I'll give you Luna. How does that sound? I barely managed to choke the words out. Lucian gave me a cold, unimpressed stare. Luna meowed, trying to bust out of her carrier. My knuckles went white. You have the nerve to squawk? You're the one who got pregnant. Looking at Mochi, I felt the tears coming. I'd laughed at Luna for being easy. Now Luna was laughing at me for being unloved. Listen, don't worry. I'll take responsibility. Only half a day ago, I'd resigned with such pride. Now, I was humbling myself to beg for my job back. Can you give me that letter back? If he didn't, Luna and I would be out on the street. Lucian raised an eyebrow, his jaw tightening slightly. Giving up on quitting? I bit my lip and shook my head. I can't let Princess Mochi suffer because of me. Even if Lucian was the man I could never have, at least my cat had slept with his. That was a small win, right? I guessed I'd just keep working under his management. A flicker of something crossed Lucian's eyes like he wanted to say more, but his phone rang. My boss was a man in high demand. Don't bother coming in today. Take care of Mochi. I've already approved your leave. That was his parting shot. So, I resigned myself to shopping for Mochi. A pregnant queen deserves the best. As for Luna, He got nothing. What a deadbeat dad. Of all people, I ran into Sylvia Bailey and her boyfriend. He was a cheerful, outgoing guy, the polar opposite of the icy, high-end Lucian. While he was busy checking produce prices, I took the plunge. I didn't think you'd give up on Lucian. Sylvia looked at me for a long time, then smiled. Because I'm tired of waiting for someone who's never going to choose me. In that department, I'm worse than him. I didn't quite catch the second half of that. Lottie, you don't know, do you? He's been in love with that someone for years. Could even a man like Lucian Evans be trapped in a one-sided love? After pampering Mochi, I slumped onto the sofa, drained. Suddenly, pop, the lights died, total blackout. I'm exhausted. This wasn't the first time. I angrily updated my Instagram feed. Power's out again in this building. I can take it, but Luna's losing his mind. Luna let out a few sharp meows, my designated angry voice. Should I tell Lucian? I sent the message, but the silence stretched on. I was just drifting off on the sofa when the door suddenly swung open. Listening to that ragged, heavy breathing, my heart skipped a beat. This was the 21st floor. Lucian, how did you get up here? I didn't. Before I could finish, I was pulled into a warm, damp embrace. Short, sharp breaths against my skin. The smell of humidity, sweat, and that familiar, expensive woody cologne washed over me. Power's out. His voice was dangerously low, gravelly, and entirely too intense in the dark. I was afraid you couldn't see. I froze. I couldn't see a thing. Then it clicked. Back in high school, during a study hall power outage, I'd pulled a fast one on him. I told him I had night blindness. I'd milked that lie for all it was worth, making him fetch my water and carry my books, bossing him around every chance I got. Captain, it's pitch black and I'm blind as a bat, I'd teased. You've gotta look after special students like me. He'd gone quiet for a heartbeat, then gave a slight nod. Yeah. I'd roped him into helping me tons of times before, and I definitely needled him on the sly, but that was straight-up shameless manipulation. Who knew? After all these years, he'd still remember. His warmth seeped into me. Everywhere our skin touched felt like it was burning. I lifted my hand to hug him, then forced it back down. I don't know why, but a sudden, sharp sense of grievance washed over me. How could you do this? You like someone else, yet you're still this good to me? Lucian Evans. My voice came out muffled. The night blindness? That was a lie. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Luna and Mochi heard the noise and patted over, rubbing against my legs. I couldn't hold it in anymore. My throat tightened, and when I spoke next, my tears cracked my voice. I'll take care of Mochi, but from now on, don't do this anymore. I'll get the wrong idea. I know. Lucian's voice cut through the dark. I blinked, stunned. What? He finally let go, leaning down to meet my gaze. Moonlight spilled into the room like water. He stared straight into my eyes, his thumb gently wiping the tear from my cheek. That day, when I came back with your water, I saw you pick up Madeline's name badge from the floor. My face flamed. You knew all along? Then why, if I hadn't played along, he paused, his voice dropping low. What other excuse did I have to come hold you? My mind blanked. I just stared at him, dazed. But didn't you say you like someone? And all these years. His throat bobbed. Then he smiled. Yeah. I've been waiting for my little princess. I wanted her to say she liked me first, but seeing her sad, I started regretting it. My eyes widened. My heart hammered against my ribs. I studied law because of her. I got Mochi because of her. I moved back home because she mentioned our building was always blacking out and she'd once told me about her night blindness. His forehead pressed against mine, softly. I've liked her for so many years. I thought I'd at least collect some interest on the wait, but after all this time, Lottie, you just crook your finger, and Lucian Evans comes running.